Okay, so you've brought some seriously heavy stuff this time, material about the story of Ingrid Escamilla.
Yeah, a really tough one.
And I guess what we really want to do is kind of like dig into it.
Yeah.
I mean, beyond the horrible details, and try to see like what her case, tells us about things like media coverage,
Yeah.
societal attitudes,
Mm-hmm.
the legal system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think what you've brought here gives us a chance to look not only at this horrible crime itself,
Yeah.
but also the public reaction, the way the media handled it.
Right.
And even what's happened since then, like the legal and social changes that have come about.
Right.
It's definitely one of those cases that really sparked a lot of important discussion.
Absolutely. And, at the heart of it all is Ingrid Escamilla herself.
Yeah.
She's 25 years old from Puebla, Mexico.
Yeah.
Had a background in tourism and business. I mean, everything you shared about her suggests she was intelligent, ambitious, kind, someone with,
Yep.
big dreams, loved to travel, loved the arts.
The material really stresses that, doesn't
Yeah.
it? That, this was someone with
Yeah.
a bright future ahead of her.
So much potential.
Tragically cut short. Yeah.
Just a horrible, horrible loss.
Absolutely. And we also get a glimpse into her relationship with Eric Francisco Robledo,
Right.
which seemed to start out normally enough, but
Yeah.
quickly took a really dark turn.
It seems like there were signs there, that we see so often in these types of situations.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the controlling behavior and emotional volatility, that's often a huge red flag.
Absolutely. And it's something that, we see play out in so many cases of domestic violence.
Right. It's so hard for someone in that situation to just leave.
Right.
Since so much going on emotionally,
Yeah.
that hope that things will change, and also just the fear of what might happen if they do try to get out.
The fear is huge.
It's really complex.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And Ingrid's experience is tragically not unique. It really shines a light on a much broader societal problem, which is the prevalence of domestic violence
Right.
and how often it stays hidden.
Right.
The WHO statistics that you sent are pretty startling.
Yeah. 1 in 3 women globally experiencing some form of...
Yeah, but 1 in 3 women globally experience physical or sexual violence.
Yeah.
And
It's a huge number.
Yeah, and most of the time it's at the hands of an intimate partner.
It really is like a silent epidemic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's like, it's happening all around us, probably more than we realize.
Absolutely, and it highlights the desperate need for, better support systems,
Right.
stronger legal protections
Right.
for people in these situations.
And also the information you sent really kind of goes into the cycle of abuse. How it starts with that manipulation
Right.
and that gradual erosion of someone's self-worth.
The control over finances, over their movements, constant threats,
Yeah.
isolation from their friends and family.
Makes it so hard to get out.
It really does, yeah.
So let's turn to the specific events of February 9th, 2020.
Okay.
We're talking about an apartment in Mexico City.
Right.
This is where things really escalated.
Yeah, a dispute that just spiraled into this unbelievable act of brutality.
And the material you've given me makes it clear that this kind of violence, it doesn't just come out of nowhere.
Right. It rarely does.
There's often a history of emotional problems, societal attitudes that might even excuse or encourage this kind of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
The information mentions previous troubling actions by Eric,
Yeah.
underscoring the fact that intimate partner violence, it doesn't usually just appear out of the blue.
It very rarely does.
Mhm.
And one thing that's important to remember is that
Yeah.
domestic violence often escalates over time.
Yeah.
So it often starts with verbal abuse,
Mm-hmm.
emotional abuse,
Mhm.
tactics designed to control and isolate the victim,
Right.
and then it progresses to physical violence.
And it can be really difficult for someone in that situation to actually understand the danger.
Yeah,
Especially when their whole sense of reality is being manipulated.
absolutely. And the information even mentions, neighbors hearing these loud noises that night,
Yeah.
which just really brings home the horror of what was happening.
In the scene that the authorities
Yeah.
found. I mean, it's just a stark illustration of this crisis of gender-based violence that's going on in Mexico.
Yeah, a really disturbing illustration. And we know that Eric was arrested pretty quickly after this.
Yeah.
But then another layer of just awful tragedy was added
Right.
when graphic crime scene photos were leaked to the media.
I mean, it's just unbelievable.
It's hard to fathom.
How could someone do that?
And they spread so fast.
Across news outlets and social media.
Everywhere.
And, the information you've given me shows just how much public anger that sparked.
Yeah, understandable outrage.
People were furious.
I mean, how could you not be?
It was such a violation of Ingrid's dignity,
Right.
even in death.
It's like she was being victimized all over again.
And of course, the trauma that caused her family.
Yeah, just unimaginable.
It wasn't just about the crime itself anymore. It became about this profound disrespect and how it was allowed to happen.
Right, and that really gets to the heart of it.
Yeah.
You know, the demand for justice wasn't just focused on the perpetrator.
Yeah.
It went beyond that.
Right.
People wanted to know, how could this leak happen?
Right. Who was responsible for it?
Yeah, was it negligence? Was it something more deliberate?
Yeah.
It really pointed to some potentially serious problems within the system,
Right.
whether it's the media or law enforcement.
And this, it fits into this larger pattern we've seen where the desire for sensationalism,
Yeah.
it seems to override basic ethical considerations in reporting.
The need to be the need to have the most shocking story.
Right.
It can just completely overshadow everything else.
And you gave me information about other cases, too, like the murders of Leslie Berlin Osorio and Vanessa Guillen,
Right.
where those crime scene photos were leaked as well.
Yeah, just adding to the pain for those families.
It's so dehumanizing.
It really is.
And after Ingrid's case, there were all these calls for reform in journalistic practices.
Absolutely.
For stronger legal protections to protect victims' dignity.
Mm-hmm.
It was really a turning point in that sense.
It really was. And there's particularly disturbing is that this kind of coverage, where the focus is on the gruesome details, it risks overshadowing who the victim actually was.
Right.
Ingrid was a real person with hopes and dreams and aspirations.
Yeah.
And we can't let the way her story was told reduce her to just the circumstances of her death.
And thankfully, all that public outrage, it did lead to some concrete changes.
Yeah, it did.
The information mentions Lee Ingrid, or Ingrid's Law,
Right.
which was passed by the Mexican Senate.
Which basically criminalizes sharing images of crime victims without authorization.
Right.
With the goal of preventing further victimization.
Protecting their dignity.
Exactly. It's about respecting the victims even after death.
And while that's a positive step, the information also points out that a lot of activists and legal experts feel like we need more systemic changes.
This is just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, Ingrid's Law is important, but it's not a cure-all.
Not by a long shot.
And the information explains how her case really kind of fueled these broader conversations about femicide in Mexico.
Yeah, it brought the issue to the forefront.
Led to stricter protocols for handling gender-based violence. Improvements in victim protection.
Right.
Increased penalties for the perpetrators.
Yeah. And there were also some serious discussions about how effective the existing laws actually were.
Right. Are they actually doing enough?
Yeah. And a lot of people were pushing for better enforcement and better support services for survivors and their families.
It's not just about punishing the guilty. It's about supporting the victims.
Exactly.
And stepping back a bit, the information really underscores the fact that femicide is a huge problem in Mexico.
Yeah, a deeply entrenched problem.
There are shockingly high rates of violence against women, and
it's crisis.
The protests that happened after Ingrid's murder, they really brought to light those systemic failings.
Yeah, in law enforcement and the judicial system.
Right.
Even just in broader societal attitudes.
It's almost like violence against women is normalized in some ways.
Yeah. In some circles, it's still seen as something that can be excused or explained away.
Which is just horrifying.
It really is. And the information concludes this section by saying that Ingrid's case really was a turning point for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It gave more survivors the courage to come forward.
Mm-hmm.
And it really empowered families of victims to start demanding justice.
So it wasn't all in vain?
No, not at all. Her case really put a spotlight on this issue and forced people to start paying attention.
So I guess as we kind of wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what really stands out to me are those stark realities we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
The just awful consequences of domestic violence.
Yeah, the ripple effects of it.
And those ethical lapses in the media coverage.
We can't let that happen again.
Right.
We have to hold the media accountable.
And it really makes you think about our responsibility as a society to protect the most vulnerable.
Absolutely. We all have a role to play in this.
This whole tragedy, it really forces us to rethink how we approach violence.
Yeah.
From prevention to holding people accountable.
From education to support services.
It's a multifaceted problem.
It really is.
But what I find really powerful about Ingrid's story is that while it is so full of sorrow, it also highlights incredible strength.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
strength of those who fought to protect her dignity.
Yeah, even in the face of such a horrific violation.
And those who are still fighting for change, for justice.
Yeah, the fight's not over.
So for you listening out there, as we end this, I want you to consider something.
Hmm.
In this digital age, where information spreads so quickly, how do we find that balance between the public's right to know and a victim's right to privacy and respect?
It's a tough question.
It really is. And what responsibility do we each have individually
Yeah.
to stop the spread of that harmful content?
It's something we all have to think about.
It's really something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a question that stays with you.
It does for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into more cases like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like the video if you found the story compelling, and share it with your friends and family who might be interested in true crime and mysteries. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with all our latest content and join a growing community of curious minds exploring the most fascinating cases. Click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything.